right, welcome to the show today. I'm your host today, Tom Fallbush, and my co-host, Bob Scott. So you're joining the Tom and Bob show, which is kind of funny to us because there's a Bob and Tom show, but whatever. we're gonna call it the Tom and Bob show, not because I'm more important than Bob. It's just we'll probably get sued if we use Bob and Tom. So there we go. So it's Tom and Bob show.
You're pretty important, Tom. I will say that.
Yep.
Couldn't do the Tom and Bob show without Tom. That's for sure.
Well, it's true. But you're a little smarter than I am. So, but I'll take the first billing there. But anyway, we have a good show today. We've got lots of different topics we're going to talk about today. There's some little drama going on with a Democrat state rep, Sarah Stalker, making some comments about how she feels bad about being white, and it's really getting a lot of buzz this morning, and it's just more of this woke nonsense, white privilege stuff. So we're going to talk about that. Also, the shooting that happened at Kentucky State University. There was a shooting yesterday that was pretty dramatic and kind of sad. It's a historically black college, and it seems like we're bringing in some of the drama from the streets into a black college. So that's just terrible. And then also Islam, you and I are on the Islam beat, the growth of Islam in this country. We've got a lot of good clips on that today. Just really the threat and sort of the attitude and the culture that a lot of these, recent immigrants, Muslim immigrants into the country, how they feel about the U.S., how they feel about their loyalty. It's just they're pretty explicit about, where they're at. So we're going to talk about that. And then and also we want to handicap the Senate race. As well, and Bob, we kind of want to announce this as well. We're planning on doing a debate, a primary debate with the Senate candidates, and we're about to do the outreach and to the Republican Senate candidates that are trying to replace Mitch McConnell's seat, and we hope to have that in May. You'll hear more about that soon, but we're going to start covering this race in a lot closer because this is very important. I mean, a lot of conservatives and Kentuckians, they're looking at this race and they don't know who to vote for. I mean, if you look at the polls, Bob, I saw a poll yesterday. I think Cameron's ahead, but he's only ahead like about 1 point. Like he's got like 28% or something, and then Barr's got 27%, and Nate Morris has 26%, and then the rest is behind. So it's not, there's really no front runner here that I can tell. So we really do need a debate. We really need to kind of vet this out because this is a very important seat. McConnell. Well, let me just get your thoughts there. Well, why is this an important seat, and why? What's important about this election?
Well, it's number one. It's important because it will help the hopefully a true conservative that will be put in place to continue the majority in the United States Senate that the party currently has. So that just from a national perspective is the most important thing. And then obviously, as far as Kentucky's concerned, we need somebody that's going to be standing up for the values of Kentucky, and the things that we want. And you got to ask the question, is part of that supporting the agenda of President Trump? I would say it is. That's why he won so overwhelmingly here. And he hasn't felt he has always had that support from the United States senators from Kentucky. So, that's going to be a part of it. There's going to be a lot to break down and look at. But I know by the grace of God, we're going to get from point A to point B.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, Kentucky right now, as it stands with the MAGA movement, is sort of a pariah in a lot of ways because of our leading politicians, Thomas Massey and Rand Paul, which I respect their positions and what they're trying to do. However, when it comes to the world of MAGA, it's we're not getting a lot of love, and so maybe we do need a strong MAGA representative here. So anyway, we're going to talk more about that, handicap that race, and also Islam, what they're really thinking when they come here. We're going to get into that here. We'll be right back on Kentucky's Voice on the Tom and Bob Show.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
All right, welcome back to the program. the Bob and Tom, or Tom and Bob show. Well, almost slipped. The Tom and Bob show here on Kentucky's Voice. I'm your host today, Tom Fallbush, and my co-host Bob Scott. So we're going to have this debate in May. It's going to be a Kentucky's Voice sponsored debate. We have several other groups of think tanks, advocacy groups that are partnering with us, and we'll make a more of an official announcement here in the coming days. But we're going to invite the candidates, and we're going to have a live debate, and it'll be also a town hall, and we'll just see what who's going to stand out here. Andy Barr, now we're having some technical difficulties, so I can't play this clip. But Andy Barr is getting a lot of attacks here the past week in the MAGA world because a video surfaced criticizing his Afghan visa support. So apparently, back in I think in 2024, he was supporting the visas for Afghan migrants and Afghan refugees. And so he was, I think, supporting whoever was doing that at the time. And so there's a lot of, okay, well, if you're real MAGA, you wouldn't be, importing all these Afghans, and that kind of thing. So, so that's kind of got some buzz right now. Morris, Nate Morris, Bob, what do you, he's kind of an interesting story because, he started off with a lot of goodwill because of the Charlie Kirk endorsement. Charlie Kirk came into Kentucky and about 2 months before he was assassinated, and did this Nate Morris rally, and so a lot of people were excited about Nate Morris because of that. Honestly, and just my opinion, I haven't settled on any of these candidates yet, but when I hear him speak, he didn't seem as confident and as someone that I just wanted to get behind, even rhetorically, But I respect Charlie Kirk immensely, and also Don Jr., who's really been behind his candidacy. But he hasn't really stood out yet as this strong MAGA candidate. And of course, the Cameron folks and the Barr folks have been slinging a lot of mud his way, and stuff that it's like, hey, he's a corporate guy that played all this DEI stuff, and he's a wolf in sheep's clothing. So I don't know, Rhino. I don't know. Well, Bob, what do you think? Morris and Barr, what are your? And we'll get to Cameron in a second, but what do you think?
Well, first of all, at this point, I'm not a Barr fan. I've got many reasons for that, and I'll say that right up front. However, hindsight's always 20/20, and going back to when they were allowing and doing visas for the Afghan nationals coming in, the whole premise and idea behind that was be bringing in people that had actually supported us, had fought alongside of us in Afghanistan. They had clearly had a target on their heads by the Taliban. So I think there was. That's one of those things you need to take a look at. Now, I got to say very quickly, the vetting was obviously lousy on that. There was virtually no vetting that happened. So, you really didn't know who you were letting in,
right.
And I think everybody pretty much admits that now. So as far as the race is concerned.
Well, can I mention one comment on that real quick? It just so happened that the U.S. had 200,000 translators, right? Because that's the number of Afghans that have come into the country. So did we have 200,000 I mean, that's one translator for every soldier on the ground. And so everybody had their personal translator. It wasn't
necessarily just translators. It was people that supposedly, allegedly had supported us.
That's right. Yeah, I guess.
I've had Scott Mann on my program several times who was very intimately involved with that. Had put his own money into helping get people out of Afghanistan. And for those, and people who don't know who Scott Mann is, he's a retired lieutenant colonel, Green Beret, decorated Green Beret, and a guy that knows.
That's a great point, Bob, because when Biden pulled out of Afghanistan and the thing just fell apart, and there was just this, of course, the bombing at the airport in Kabul, and there were actually a lot of U.S. Citizens, former military and even current military, that rallied and put together an extraction program for sensitive sensitive people in Afghanistan who were under threat. I mean, we're talking, there were a lot of Afghan special forces that were being hunted down by the Taliban. A lot of the intelligence services over there that were very loyal to us. And actually, my cousin was a contractor for a decade, and he was involved in some of this. So I know this did go on, and then I'm sure there are some fine people that worked with us that definitely were under threat, and we abandoned them, just like Vietnam. We just abandoned the country, and so I kind of get that. However, the overwhelming it seems like the overwhelming majority of Afghans that have come into the country, I don't know if they fall within that category, and we're getting we're getting that shooting. I mean, what just happened in D.C.?
Yeah, that's right.
It was an Afghan refugee. What's happening with there's a lot of these Afghans that have come over here that are just unstable, that are just not loyal. They're terroristic, and they're still loyal to the Taliban, and who knows? We've got a real problem with that.
I think a lot of it is it's a cultural thing. I mean, that's been a warring nation since really almost the dawn of time,
right?
And the tribes and that culture, they're used to being at each other's throats, literally, on that. And so it's a completely different mindset than
Islam as well. You mix Islam into it.
It's used to it in this country. So it's complex. I mean, I will say that. And I do know, the one thing I do know beyond a shadow of a doubt, primarily through the Biden administration, way too many illegals have been allowed into our country, completely unvetted. We don't know who they are or where they're at. And I do feel, just based upon intelligence I've seen and heard, that they are plotting, to take action against this country.
That's right. Yeah, and I think that's one reason why Americans have just soured on the whole war on terror, the global war on terror era, of our country's history, and because I think we started off with good intentions to try to protect ourselves and take on Al Qaeda and Taliban on their soil as opposed to our soil, but we just, as a country, we have just a tendency to kind of fade out and flake out over time, and our enemies know that. If you can just get us embroiled in some sort of quagmire, that we'll just go home and just and we give up. And so, I'm really anti-foreign entanglement until we can get a hold on what we are as a country, what we're about. Unless there's a really existential threat, we can no longer be nation building, because we don't have a nation here that's halfway, strong enough to keep our own nation alive right now with just the division we have. So the Afghan situation is a prime example. And so, and of course, you're right. There are some refugees in situations like that we caused. We caused that Afghan debacle, right? By Biden pulling out. Yeah, that's legitimate to probably protect some of these people that we put in danger. However, the rest of the world immigrating, we got to shut it down. Shut down all immigration. I'm talking legal and illegal. We have been
no argument here, brother.
Overdosed on immigration, and we're done with it. And Americans are just fed up with it. But
I want to invite people that are listening right now. If you have a comment or a thought, please pick up your phone and call us, or text us, I should say, at 502-571-0970. That text line number is 502-571-0970. We would absolutely love to hear from you. This is an important discussion that Tom and I are having today, and your voice lended to it will actually help enhance the conversation. And we'd just like to honestly hear your thoughts with regard to not only what's happening with the illegal folks that have come into the country, but where we are right now, as a nation. This is a turning point for our nation. And the next election, I have friends that are on the liberal side, and they're openly saying the quiet part out loud now, and they're hoping that they win the midterms, and if they win the midterms, they're going to go and impeach Trump and get him out of office. That's the plan.
Yeah,
clearly, that's the plan.
Yeah, they're planning on coming back with a vengeance. The gloves are off, and so Republicans and conservatives, listen, we cannot afford to lose elections now. And this whole internecine struggle we're having right now with on the right, with all these influencers fighting one another and all this backstabbing stuff. It is, I'm sorry, it's going to cost us the midterms and cost us this country. And we got to get our act together as a movement and rally together. We have a big tent. We got to realize in order to win nationally, you have to have a but there's going to be a lot of different opinions within your tent. But the big themes have to move forward, and we're not doing that right now. So, but anyway, so we'll be right back. We're going to talk about that shooting at K-State and also some issues with just Islam and integration, and also want to hear your thoughts on the election. Who are you supporting right now on this primary? I love to know. Is it Nate Morris? Is it Cameron? Is it Andy Barr? Is it one of the others? Text us, let us know. 571-0970, 571-0970. We'll be right back.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
All right, welcome back to the program. I'm your host today, Tom Fallbush, with my co-host, Bob Scott. It is the Tom and Bob Show, and we are talking many different topics, Islam, who's going to replace Mitch McConnell, and we've got a Representative Sarah Stalker here from Louisville, getting national attention for some craziness that she's espousing, some woke craziness. But before we get into that, I want to play this clip, Bob. We were talking about Islam in the last segment, and this is a young man that's been doing some great work on just exposing just sort of the mindsets and the ideas of that people that have in this community. And so he was up in Dearborn, and they were doing some sort of parade, and he just started interviewing people. It's like, hey, well, what do you think about the country? And so let's hear what they have to say.
Now you have all these Islam men yelling Allah Akbar. I have a question for you guys. If America were to get in a war with a country like Iraq, who would you guys defend, America or Iraq?
We won't get in a war. That's not permissible for us. But at the same time,
who would you defend first?
We would support our brothers in Iraq. That's the only way.
So you wouldn't defend America?
We would not defend America.
But you're American.
But at the same time, listen. At the same time, America is our country because we were born here. But in our Islamic book, we're not allowed to fight with people that are against our religion. So we just take up the jail time.
So you would
That's
not.
what we do.
So you would not defend America.
I would go to jail instead of fighting for America.
And who would you defend if we were to go to war against a country like Iraq again, America or Iraq?
America.
And should that be a troublesome conflict of interest for somebody to be here in America that would rather support another nation like Iraq?
Anybody who supports another nation needs to live in that nation. This is a Christian nation.
There we go. So, Allah Akbar, walking down the streets of Dearborn, Michigan, yelling Allah Akbar, and hey, if we had to go to war with some country in the Muslim world, would you fight for America? No, we wouldn't, because we wouldn't fight against our brothers. We would rather go to jail, even though this is our country. And it's like, so. Now,
make it make sense, please.
Yeah, right. Now, so if this is if this is a widespread view in that community, which I suspect it is, right? And maybe I haven't done a poll of every Muslim person in this country, but if it's a widespread view in this country, we've got a real problem. And that's why Europe, and that's why England, and they're talking about civil war in England right now because of this sort of problem. Now we don't have as many Muslims as a percentage in this country as say Europe does. So Europe's a basket case. We're literally going to look at civil conflict over there in the next decade or so. It's going to be a mess. But here in the U.S., we've got a choice whether to embrace this and let it fester, let it grow out of control, or get realistic about this and maybe realize that, listen, we can't just let everybody in. because guess what? They don't really like us. They're just here for their own agenda. And so anyway, Bob, I just, we've been on this theme quite a bit, but I
Yeah,
don't think
no, it's not just us, Tom. I mean, fortunately, it's starting to get national attention, as it should. I know my very good friend, Dr. Gary French, who's been on my program several times. In fact, I had him on last week. He had sent me something just the other day that was talking about, and this was Glenn Beck, talking about a Sharia enclave is quietly taking root
Yeah.
in
Down in
America,
Texas, right.
and Glenn Beck said it's time to wake up, and realize that their loyalty isn't to this country. Their loyalty is to Islam, and anybody that supports Islam, that's who they're going to stand with.
Right.
And I don't want to paint with too broad of a brush, because there are some good Muslims out there, but I think honestly, when the rubber meets the road, most are going to side with that religion, if you will, and it's more than a religion. It's a political movement, is what it is, and that's the thing that we all had better be waking up to and standing firm with regard to the resolve to do something about this.
That's right. Yeah, and I think Americans and those on the right are having a real conversation right now about this. I mean, how do you handle freedom and liberty, freedom of religion, treating all men as equal, and still have a concern and a realistic, and being just a realistic view of the world when it comes to Islam, people with Islamic, backgrounds, just the agenda of Islam. I mean, how do you reconcile all that? And there's a famous author, a European author called Oriana Fallaci. She was Italian, very well known. She was atheist, but she was very concerned about, and she's now passed, but she was very concerned about the Islamicization of Europe, and she basically used the term liberty side or libercide, and so it's almost the same concept of having a suicidal empathy, that a lot of people on the woke left have. Well, we can also have a suicidal liberty if we're not careful. We can worship liberty so much and freedom of religion so much that you're going to tolerate religions and worldviews that are anti-liberty and anti your future. And so how do you reconcile
they're using our system, our kindness, to really infiltrate our country and bore down. That's really at the heart of this is they want to come in and take over our systems, our government. And once they do that, how do I know that that's happening? Well, let's look at Europe. And
that's right.
See in real time what's happening.
Let's look at Minneapolis. I mean, let me play this clip, Mr. Producer. Yeah. So, Minneapolis. This is what you're hearing. This is what you're hearing in Minneapolis right now. See. And if you can hear that, that's the Muslim call to prayer. Being on loudspeakers. These are our church bells. And a lot of times what they're doing, it's not just calls to prayer. It's basically preaching Islamic doctrine over the air. Like there's like they'll say things over these, like God has no son. Allah is one. Allah is greater. And so basically what they're doing is they're speaking out against the Christian worldview and Christianity. And so now, are we going to have this interreligious, struggle here in America? But or should we just get realistic about who we are as a country? This wouldn't be America if it was founded by Muslims. So this is a country that's built on Judeo-Christian values. And so when someone is pushing these ideas and trying to publicize them and proselytize those ideas that run against the founding and what the core of the country's about, it's just It's like having a
Well,
communist.
it's proselytization of my way or the highway,
Right.
Tom.
Exactly.
Is what it is. That's not how Christianity is. We'll share openly the gospel, but it's ultimately it's up to you whether you want to decide to follow. And since we're talking about Somalia, I know we only have a minute and a half to go, and the scandal up there. But again, it's we see already and more breaking every single day. Now they're estimating that up to $1 billion, if not more, American U.S. taxpayer dollars that has been poured into supposedly charitable organizations spearheaded by Somalians, which are Islamic, in primarily Minneapolis, is being pilfered and going to anywhere except the people that it was supposedly intended to go to. They're basically enriching themselves on the back of U.S. taxpayers.
Exactly right. And this money's going overseas to terrorist organizations because Al-Shabaab is getting a lot of this money.
That's correct too.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's ridiculous. So anyway, folks, we got to wake up. This is a real concern. We're not sharing this just to be cathartic with you so we can all just share this concern together. We really got to take action. We got to figure out what to do. Now, what do you do? First of all, we got to shut down all immigration. I mean, just period. I mean, we've been overdosed both on legal and illegal immigration. We got to shut it down. It's like when you have a big meal and you overstuff yourself. You don't eat for a while. You got to let yourself digest that food. We've got to let ourselves digest this immigration that we've just ingested over the past 50 years. And so let's get that done. Hey, next segment, we're talking about the shooting at KSU and also Sarah Stalker saying she hates being white. We'll be right back on Kentucky's Voice.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
All right, welcome back to Kentucky's Voice, and I've got my co-host Bob Scott with me. We are talking all things immigration and, of course, Islamic, the threat of Islam to the country, and how Americans are starting to wake up to this. And Bob, I think we had a text that came in the last segment.
Yeah, in fact, obviously referencing our last segment, they wrote in and said, "Scary sounds. I believe if it is against our country and normal views, it's not religion, it's treason inside our country and should be stopped."
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, it's I'm somewhat torn because at the end of the day, there are other religions in this country outside of Christianity. However, Islam poses a specific threat that's beyond just a different view of God or different view of the world. It has a political agenda to it. It's subversive in its nature. It has a history of this, and so it's not something we're just making up. We can just see it. The evidence is there, and you can see it in the attitudes of these young men in that previous video. That hey, we're not going to fight for America if we fight Islamic countries because we're more loyal to our ethnic group and our religion than we are to Islam. What would happen if World War II or World War I, American soldiers said, no, we're not going to go fight the Germans because they're a Christian country, and I'm saying so we've got. There are differences here. This is, anyway. So, well, I tell you what. Let me shift gears. We've covered that a bit. I want to cover a different topic here, Bob. And this is a local state rep, Democrat Sarah Stalker, and her district is in the Highlands. It's district. You can pull this up,
34.
Mr. Producer. Yeah, 34, and you can see it down there in the kind of the east end, the Highlands, kind of the close to the Crescent Hill area, that sort of area. But she's in the news today. She is. She has
in a way that so many of my
pause this. I'm going to be ready, but she's in the news today with this comment. So she's talking about her white privilege. So let's and this is on Libs of TikTok. If you know anything about Libs of TikTok, it's a pretty well followed social media account, and so she's getting a lot of attention. So let's see what she has to say.
I'm going to be honest. I don't feel good about being white every day for a lot of reasons, because it's a point of privilege that I get to move through the world in a way that so many of my other colleagues and friends and family members of the community don't get the privilege to do. And I'm just a female, but just a woman, just a white woman. If I was a white man, I would be functioning from a point of an even greater privilege. I think we're missing an opportunity when kids have a moment to reflect about how the color of their skin does and does not allow them to move through the world. Running to them and trying to stifle that and trying to say you shouldn't feel bad, so we don't want to ever expose you to something that is going to make you have to pause and have maybe some internal feelings. It's a missed opportunity for some really good dialogue.
So in other words, Bob, we need to teach our kids that they should feel bad about being born as a white person, somebody with European descent. And you should feel bad about that. If we're not teaching our kids that they have this natural sin, this original sin of being white, then we're not doing something right. And I got a message to Democrat Sarah Stalker, District 34 here in Louisville. It's okay to be white.
And it's okay to be a man too.
It's okay to be white. And so she needs to back off of this, because she's the one fueling this kind of stuff. Is what's fueling the Nick Fuenteses in the world, all this racialized stuff that's coming from both sides of the aisle, and that we're turning into a racially tribal-oriented society because of this stuff. This stuff that the left has been pushing over the past 10 years has made everybody very race conscious all of a sudden. When back in the Bob, you and I are old enough. Back in the 80s and 90s, it was pretty much the glory days of racial relations in this country. It was post-civil rights. Everybody learned the lesson of the civil rights movement of Martin Luther King. We look at people by their character. We ignore this. And I mean, everybody had interracial friends. It was just, we all celebrated music together. We all hung out together. It was a wonderful time. Suddenly, racial politics of the type that this lady is pushing on America entered into the equation with first Barack Obama, and but just all the academic world of wokeism and social justice and racial politics.
Well, and that's where
poisoned our country, and she's continuing to poison our country.
Listen, Obama ignited this. I mean, he lit the fuse. It was intentional in doing so. And I remember you talk about going back to the the 80s. I'm honestly a little older than you. I was a child of the 60s and 70s, a young child when Martin Luther King was assassinated. But I will tell you, one of my best friends, I call them, you've got 3, 4, maybe 5 best finger friends that you can count in your lifetime.
Right.
One of them was a black guy, and we're still friends. He's living out in Arizona now, but we talk, and we just talked this past weekend, and we make a point of having discussions with each other. And I can tell you, the whole idea of him being black and me being white, how many times that came up when we hung out together? 0.
Right.
0.
Right.
That was not a point of interest.
That's
we
right.
didn't care about the color of our skins. We cared about common beliefs and ideas, and he's a Christian, I'm a Christian. Jesus Christ, what was the melanin in our skin meant nothing to us.
Right.
And you're right, Tom. You're right on the money. This crap needs to come to an end. We need to stand together as a nation. I know we're going to have our differences in the process, but it has got to come to an end, and I'm sick and tired of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, and it's folks like this. These a lot of people that think they're being empathetic, or they're being wise, or they're being somehow socially conscious by having this racial consciousness in their mind, when all they're doing is just polluting the body politic, and it's just really wrong. And not to say there aren't issues within subcultures in America, right? I mean, there are issues within the black community that people like you and I that are conservatives that look at the world, it breaks our heart. It breaks our heart that there's just high levels of crime in the black community, for example, and fatherlessness and all this stuff. And so it's not to say that we can't take groups and look at them and say, okay, there are some trends here, there are some issues we need to confront, but people need to do that in a sense, in an idea and a heart of goodwill and of love for our fellow Americans, and this kind of stuff that she's pushing is it doesn't do that. It works against that, because it basically says that you have an inherent problem of being who you are. You're an inherently flawed person because it's impossible for you to be empathetic enough or to be sensitive enough to somebody of another race. So you have this inherent flaw so you need to be discriminated against. Matter of fact, you need to be taken down. A lot of your resources need to be taken away. You need to be taxed more. It's just like the Mondami stuff. He's going to tax white neighborhoods and to kind of right the ship. Well, it's just hateful and it's terrible. And so, tell you what, I want to go to another topic that's kind of related to this. Bob, we got about 3 minutes left. This is Kentucky State University. There is a KSU in Kansas, but this is Kentucky State University, historically black college. And so there was a shooting. I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, but it was a shooting there, and it all stemmed from this fight. And Mr. Producer, I'm going to mute the audio here because the person shooting this was using some words we can't put on the air. But I'm going to play this video, and you can see the fight that's going on here. So this is on the main, I don't know what they call it, the quad, I guess, the main area inside of Kentucky State University, which is a historically black college here in Kentucky, just outside of Frankfort. And what's happening is hard to see here, but there's there we go, the guy that was hands up, that's a father of one of the students. And one of the students was getting beat up, and it was apparently his son. And then this whole brawl developed. People were bringing out baseball bats, fighting each other. And then somehow a father was involved in this, and he ends up shooting somebody and killing a young 19-year-old kid. And so
tragic,
just really tragic. And so my only comment about talking about this as related to the other, what Sarah Stalker was saying is, it's tragic to see sort of the fight culture, the machismo culture, the sort of the urban black culture that has where there's some criminality and some of that going on there. You hate to see that get into a black college.
Well, because
our solution is the black college and the church, and so it's like. But go ahead, yeah.
The father was there. The story that I have heard from several sources, he was there to get his son, pull him out of the school because his son was being bullied, by other students. Okay. I suspect some of those other students were sadly one of the people that was shot, and killed. And it appears that the father was, coming in and taking up for his son. Again, I'm not going to try the case right now.
I know it's complicated. It really is
tragic,
right? That
it happened and that it escalated to that point. It's something that should never have happened. And you know what? It comes back to being a heart issue. Yeah. With regard to our society as a whole, black, white, it doesn't matter. It's where your heart lies. And I could tell you, as the father of sons, I would rush to defend them. But at the same time, I would hope that they wouldn't be in that situation. I would do my darndest to try to diffuse it, get them out of there, and move on. Yeah. Because now this father, sadly, is going to be facing consequences. I know he didn't go over there with the intention of facing.
Yeah, exactly right. But he did walk on that campus with a gun, and it was something, but who knows? Maybe he should have. Maybe his son was under threat. I don't know. But what's tragic, Bob? We got 30 seconds left. What's tragic about this is the solution to the issues of in the black community is the black father. That's what we need. We need a black fathers to step up. And now whether or not he was stepping up in this case, I don't know. It's pretty tragic. I don't know. But we need black men to step up and be fathers in that community. So anyway, well, it's tragic. A lot to say on that. We'll be right back on Kentucky's Voice. We want to hear your thoughts. 571-0970.
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
All right, welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. I'm your host today, one of your hosts today of the Tom and Bob Show, of the Kentucky's Voice Tom and Bob Show edition. Tom Fallbush, and we have my co-host Bob Scott, and we're covering a lot of different topics today. We have a couple more interesting stories that are popping up right now. TPUSA. Unless you're under a rock, you've heard of TPUSA, Charlie Kirk, that whole group, and there has been a local TPUSA faith chapter that's opened up here in Louisville at actually my home church, Evangel World Prayer Center, and it is only second one in the city, in the state actually. So if you're interested in getting involved in Turning Point in any way, you can get involved through through Turning Point Faith, and they'll have another meeting shortly after the holidays. We'll tell you more about that. But there was a group of young women from the University of Cumberland, University of the Cumberlands, not to be confused with Cumberland University, which is a different university, but University of Cumberland. It's a Baptist college down in eastern Kentucky, and actually Bob Scott's wife went to that school. But we've covered that school recently because they're embroiled in a scandal where they're trying to, basically become a conduit for, all these Indian workers that are trying to skirt our immigration laws, and so they're very guilty of kind of skirting these laws and using, basically education vouchers and to allow these people to work and take American jobs. And so it's very disappointing, and they haven't really addressed it, and it's a huge problem. There are more Indian grad students enrolled in that school and also Campbellsville University than any school or any state in the country. And it's because these Indians have figured out, University of Cumberland's, we can go, not even show up and become a student there, but it's not even show up on campus and go to work at this company and get paid. And it's just a whole scandal. Anyway, so that same school is not allowing a Turning Point USA chapter to start at that school. This is a Baptist college. It's a Baptist university. They're not allowing Turning Point USA. Shame on them. And there's a lot of these schools doing this. And I'm going to play this video here, Mr. Producer, of this lady that's having another similar issue in other schools. So we'll.
Hi everyone. Most of you probably don't know this, but I'm actually about to graduate college from Vanguard University of Southern California. It's a private Christian school in Orange County, California. Overall, I've had a great experience there, but unfortunately this semester the administration has made the decision to shut down the TPUSA chapter that I founded on campus. This is because of a new rule that the administration says they don't want any political, ideological, or religious student organizations on campus. So, of course, my chapter is very disappointed in this decision. The current president, Sadie Burnett, has put an article on Substack that I'll link detailing this decision and why the students are so upset about it. Adding to the reason why students are upset is that there are still cultural or heritage-related clubs such as the Black Student Union and the Asian Pacific Islander Club allowed on campus, but Turning Point USA is not allowed. I had a conversation with President Michael Beals about this, and he said the main reason for this decision is that the school does not want Christian students to base their identities on political convictions, and that's sort of the base of the reason for this decision. My chapter and many students and parents at Vanguard disagree with this sentiment. We think that Christians should be involved with political activism, and this has sort of been a pattern in recent years. Even just this semester, Point Loma Nazarene also shut down the Turning Point USA chapter at their school, and we think it's quite concerning that Christian students are being discouraged from being involved in political activism, because that just leaves all the activism to non-Christian students, and then Christian leaders wonder why our culture and our country is the way that it is. Well, maybe it's because Christian students are not being encouraged to be involved in politics. So I completely disagree with this decision. While I've had a great experience at Vanguard, I would really like to see the administration reconsider this. So yeah, please share this story far and wide and take some time to read Sadie's article about the situation.
Oh yeah, so this is happening all over the country, but it's happening here in Kentucky as well. University of Cumberland's, and so that's a Baptist college, and they're not allowing a Turning Point USA chapter to develop. And And Bob, the whole idea, the whole premise that these administrators have of, Christians shouldn't be involved in these sort of things. We're not going to allow that on our campus. Well, tell that to the abolitionist. Tell that to the civil rights workers in the 1960s who were Christians, who were motivated by their faith to get involved politically to help change the country. The only thing that saves this country, the only thing that keeps America on track is its moral foundation rooted in its faith traditions and rooted in Christians in this country. That's the only thing. That's the only thing that kept us from going over the edge in every crisis we've had. And so so Christians absolutely need to be involved in politics. Christianity, it's a whole life thing. It isn't just, you get this little compartment of your life over here and everything else you ignore, and you just live this real, like this myth of this secular society we all live in, and you leave your faith at home. Everything you do has a worldview tied to it. And everybody brings their worldview to it. And so politics, religion, business, marriage, family, or the way you educate people, worldviews are tied into all that. And guess what? The left and the secular people that are Islamic, they all have their worldviews that they're bringing to the table. And they're asking it to be included and pushed, and their agendas to be pushed. But when it comes to Christians, suddenly we can't, because, you're bringing your faith. You shouldn't be bringing your faith. Well, you're bringing your faith when you're putting a drag queen in front of my kids. You think that's totally appropriate in your worldview and your religious worldview. So in here, Christian colleges, if you're a parent and you have a kid that's about to go to a college, make note of which colleges are not allowing TPUSA chapters. Because don't send them to those colleges, because those colleges have been co-opted. Those Christian colleges have been infiltrated by left-wing people. Sad to say, but a lot of these Christian colleges. Listen, Harvard and Yale used to be a seminary, right? And they were taken over years ago by the far left. And so it's happening on even in the what we used to think of as traditional Christian conservative colleges. It's happening now. And so anyway, Bob, that's my rant.
No, three key words that you said: worldview and infiltrated. And that's exactly where the fight is around. And as you mentioned, my wife went to Cumberland. She had a great experience down there, but they started going woke. I want to say about 10 years ago when she went there, the team nickname was the Indians. And then supposedly the administration got some heat over it. I suspect it wasn't really much, if any. So they changed the name to Patriots which isn't a bad name. I like the name Patriots, obviously. But it was the whole idea that they were offending a particular segment of society when the fact of the matter is that segment of society, Native American, could probably care less. About it.
One of the many moral panics that we've gone through in the past 20, 30 years of suddenly, oh my gosh, anything Indian and its name is somehow racist or somehow offensive to Native Americans. And so that's, it's ridiculous. And so I think most people will see that as honoring the tradition of Native Americans, especially when it comes to sports teams. What Native Americans are very celebrated for their warrior spirit. Well, so why not celebrate that in the name of your sports team? And what the Boston Celtics? Should we? Boston. So should we change that because it's racist against the Irish people? People from Scotland. Come on, it's ridiculous. So anyway, TPUSA, and they're under a lot of attack right now because of these crazy online influencers. I'm not a big fan of Candace Owens right now. Many of you people know who she is. She's really just making a lot of money off of her attacks on TPUSA, and it is shameful. And I think she's a shameful person. And I hate to say that because I really enjoyed her in the past. She did an amazing work with the Blexit movement and the Black Exit movement. Leaving the Democratic Party. She did some great work back in the day, but something broke in her head a few years ago, and she's just off the chain. And she's very. And now listen, Bob, I'll say this: if we lose the midterms, I will blame it on her specifically because TPUSA is the most important force right now to get out the vote for Republican causes. If it wasn't for TPUSA, Trump would not be in office right now. Everybody that's even halfway aware of the political system understands that. And so the midterms are very critical. And if this whole Candace Owens garbage where she's saying someone on the inside of TPSA had something to do with Charlie's death, which is so heinous to say. It's just so evil to say. And so, but but people are we're so conspiracy minded on the right now, which good reason to be on some level because we've been lied to on so many things. We can't trust any institution. But now we're addicted to this conspiracy stuff to the point where we'll take anything and so I believe it because you can't trust anything. I believe it now. Can't. And so we got
I quite frankly, Tom, I think that's a part of the plan of the left is to going back to our state motto, united we stand, divided we fall, is to try to get in and fragment the leadership. Now I'm not saying that Trump is being fragmented. He's staying on point and staying on message. And I'm not saying I've agreed with everything that he's done, but I can tell you this much. I thank God every single day that he's our president as opposed to Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
We would be in far worse
the country
shape.
would be over. The country would be done.
The country would be over, and you're right.
Yeah, we'd be in some sort of civil conflict or something.
The upcoming midterms is going to be a crisis vote, and the full intention is to go out and obviously for them to try to win, regain power, tie Trump up in the last 2 years of his agenda, and if not impeaching, but they will impeach him, but try to get him out of office to subvert the vote of the American people. And that's really what this comes down to.
Exactly right. Well said. Yeah. And here's another reason why I encourage the legislature to redistrict Kentucky. Let's get rid of this liberal seat in Louisville. We can redistrict this state and pick up another congressional seat. And we've got to do it. Every other Democratic state, all the Democrat states have already gerrymandered to the hilt, and there's no Republican representation of those states on purpose. They did it as an agenda. Yet we play by the Marcus of Queensberry rules, where we got to be polite and just still allow Democrats to have a seat because no, if the other side is doing this, we're in an existential moment for this country. We got to use every tool at our disposal, and so we need to redistrict in the state. Call your state rep, call your state senator, say, why aren't you redistricting that seat in Louisville out? Because there's a map where we could do this. We could have nothing but Republican U.S. House reps in this state.
But they're doing it in Indiana, so just right across the river.
Yeah, they're doing it in Indiana, doing it in other cities, but our states. Anyway, okay. Thanks for watching the Tom and Bob Show. We'll be back tomorrow with another Tom and Bob Show here on Kentucky's Voice. Appreciate you. Thank you.